Now, usually for our Hound of the Week segment, we just talk to one type of dog. But today I'm with Chris Kotsopoulos of Von Farrell Kennels. And Chris breeds and trains German Shepherd dogs and Dobermans. G'day, Chris.
G'day.
Who have we got here who's very excited?
You've got Rena,
And,
our latest edition.
Now, how old is she?
She's about 15 weeks.
Now, she's actually an absolute purebred German Shepherd dog, isn't she?
Absolutely.
And yet her colouring is probably a little bit different from what a lot of people, her appearance is a little bit different from what people might be used to seeing in a German Shepherd, I reckon. Is that true?
It is true. She comes from a line of very dark dogs and from working bloodlines, not from show breeding.
Mm-hmm. And that's what she's designed to do, right?
She is.
So what sort of jobs would Rena be good for?
Well, primarily for us, she's ideal for breeding, but ultimately these bloodlines go for police service dogs, security dogs, home protection, family guardians. Yep.
So, and what about just as a family pet?
Absolutely. Perfect for a family pet.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Apart from how they're trained, is it possible to identify what sort of temperament is going to work at a young age? Like, for example, with Rena here.
Pretty much so. We've established some testing and some rigid testing, and when we assess the animals and we know what they're allocated for, we can literally pick which puppy would suit the family best. Okay. So if they were looking for a good family pet, we would sort of evaluate the appropriate puppy to suit them.
Yep. So if people are looking at dogs like German Shepherds and Dobermans, which because of what they're designed for, sometimes they can be aggressive if they're trained to be aggressive and all that sort of thing. How would they go about, I guess they need to see a breeder that understands what their needs are, right? Ultimately?
Yeah, they do. I think the most important thing is that the background of these animals comes from a very, very good line of stable animals. And once you've established that as a breeder, you can identify which bloodlines produce certain character traits, and then pick the people that suits them best and work from there.
Okay. Now, we haven't met that many breeders on the show, but from what we've found, usually people are just into breeding one type of dog, and yet you've got the Dobermans and the German Shepherds. How did that come about for you?
Well, I love the Doberman as a breed, and I love the particular type it has.
Is that because you grew up watching Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, no, but I tell you what, I love the sleekness and the design, pretty much so, and then the stories of how good they were or supposed to be. But I found that wasn't really true. I found there was a lot of flaws in the breed, and I found what I needed in character-wise in the Shepherd, and so hence why I went to the Shepherd as well. Currently, I've been, in the last 15 years trying to bring up the Doberman to the Shepherd quality, and it's getting there. We're having some very successful results, so the dogs are working well.
With breeding animals like this, obviously it's reasonably complicated getting the results that you want and all that sort of thing. How does someone get from not knowing anything about it basically to where you are? You've obviously got a very slick operation here, and you guys obviously know what you're doing. How does one get to that point with it?
I think ultimately one has to have an end in mind and know what they're looking for exactly. Once they do that, they can go around the world and basically find the character traits that suit that particular behavioural trait you're looking for. So fundamentally, we're looking for character traits and particular traits that work in the chosen field that we're going for, police service dogs or whatever it be, but high-level competition animals as well. So there are certain traits we're looking for. Now, once you understand all those, we do through training, but ultimately we simply source the world for the right genes and test the dogs ourselves and travel globally and make the right assessment and then breed with those animals.
So somewhere along the line early on, you must have made a few mistakes as well in learning all that.
And the mistakes continue, so that's just normal, and that's genetic material, I guess, and you really can't do much about it. But we've managed to sort of isolate the traits that have given us better results at particular gene pools, so it's working well. Yeah.
So I guess it's a sort of a feedback process, isn't it? Where you need to be aware of what's going on, and is this what I wanted? And
yeah, it is. And the ideal thing for us is to be able to see these puppies from youngsters at this age and all the way through their life. And then by doing that over the last 20 years, we're able to sort of pick the particular animals that give us the responses we're looking for. And it works really well.
How many litters or how many puppies do you reckon you've raised in that time?
Well, interesting question. I actually don't know. It's a hard basket, but quite a few. And I've done a lot of experimental matings as well to establish what works and doesn't work. And there were quite a few of them that didn't work very well at all. and hence what teaches you the capabilities of really picking the right stock. So you need the selection, and that's what's important. So how many puppies?
Well, who's had the most of your pups? Who's grown up to have the most illustrious careers that you're particularly
Well,
proud
we've
of?
had quite a few. There's a lot of dogs at the correctional services. There's quite a few dogs at the police. There's the Grand National Schutzen champion. So that was a dog I think it was in 2003. A dog called Vilko. So there's others, but they're the ones that come off the coast.
Those are a few that you're proud of?
Yeah, I am proud of them, actually. We are.
Now, if people are considering German Shepherds or Dobermans, what sort of health issues do they need to be aware of?
Well, with the Shepherds, the main issues are pretty much the hips and elbows. And in the males, they have a haemophilia problem, which they test for now. So in all our breedings that we do, according to the VCA ethics, we've got to make sure that all our dogs abide by their ethics, which is a good thing. And the Doberman has a cardiomyopathy issue, which is a heart issue, and they have a von Willebrand's issue, which is also a bleeding disorder. But that's gradually been stamped out, and breeders are working diligently at working towards.
So you should ask your breeder about that.
You should. I think you should. Yeah, and you should see valid testing for it too, not just hearsay.
Okay, so you should ask to see testing.
Yes.
And what is the average lifespan for these guys?
That's a good question, Steve. You know, the average lifespan seems to be traditionally in the last 30 years about 8 to 10 years old. But these dogs here, which are interesting, the Europeans that have bred them, the East German dogs and the Czechoslovakian dogs, have seemed to have struck on a longevity gene. So her grandfather just died, 14 years old.
Wow.
So they
extraordinary
seem to live a little longer. Yeah, they do.
So what sort of families would they suit? I mean, if you're less active or more active, young children, apartment dwellers,
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I believe if an animal's a stable animal and he's a calm dog, he can pretty much live anywhere. And I'll never forget an incident in Europe once. I went to Holland and saw a Doberman male living in an apartment. In fact, he had 5 dogs. And they were living in an apartment with no backyard, and they did very, very well. So I think it's giving him quality time that's important rather than just simply giving a huge backyard like our property. It doesn't really do anything.
Well, folks, that is some of what there is to know about German Shepherd dogs and Dobermans. And if you want to know more, as usual, we'll have some links in today's show notes, including a link to Chris's info if you want to get in touch with him. Thanks for your time today, Chris.
You're welcome. Thank you.